Hey everyone, hey everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to another episode of Life Unmothered, where we talk about raw truths, family secrets, and dysfunctional family traits, dynamics, whatever you want to call it. We discuss that on this show. So, y'all know I start at 8 o'clock right away. I don't waste no time because I give y'all just this much of research, right? So when we leave the live, I'll pray that y'all continue to research that y'all learn on this show, right? So I just want to iterate as well. When you hear Life Unmothered, a lot of people always thinks about that it's pertaining to just women. Spirit told me to clarify this. This show is for whoever has been wounded, whoever has been unseen, whoever had met unmet. If you had needs unmet by your mother, this is for you. Period. It is not limited to just women. Men have mother wounds as well. So I wanted to just clarify that. And because if any man come across my show, just because you see the title of Life Unmothered, no, it's just not for women, it's for men as well. Okay. So with that being said, every week I'm going to read my statement that I wrote as far as pertaining to this show because, who knows, somebody might jump on and see episode 3, 4 before they even come back to 1. So I always want to read this before I even start the show, right? So this show was born out of pain I never deserved and healing I fiercely fought for. I know what it's like to be unmothered. I grew up without the nurture, protection, or love I needed. I was raised in trauma, told to stay silent and expect to smile through it all. But I also know what it's like to break cycles, reclaim your voice, and rewrite your story. My mission, my life's purpose, is to shine a light on childhood trauma and abuse and the pain that most people are scared to talk about. To expose the wounds we were taught to hide and help others rise from theirs too. This is more than a podcast. This is a movement, a mirror, and a safe house for truth. It's for the ones who were told to get over it, but never had a chance to process it. It's for the inner child still wanting to be seen. Because healing isn't just personal, it's generational. And I'm not just healing for me, I'm healing for my lineage and to help others do the same. So if you ever felt unseen, unloved, and unmothered, just know that this show is for you and we're healing together, okay? So with that being said, I want to do a quick recap of what we went over last week. I'm not going to get too much into it because if y'all didn't see last week's episode, go watch last week's episode. So just a quick recap of what we went over last week, right? So we went over trauma and how the absence of safety. We went over the body remembers. We went over adult behaviors when it's dealing with trauma. We went over how it's passed down biologically. We went over emotional inheritance. We went over roles getting assigned and recycled as far as being the peacekeeper, the overachiever, the parentified child, or the black sheep. We went over that. We went over how unhealed trauma, what unhealed trauma does to your body. We went over that. We also went over what trauma does to the body when it's not addressed. We also went over that last week, right? So, trauma is not just a memory in the mind. It's a physical imprint in the body, right? So we know this. That's what we went over last week. We went over triggers and flashbacks. So I encourage y'all to go check out video 1, and I'm going to number each video that I do. So if I send y'all back to reference, y'all know exactly what video to watch. So this is episode 2. We did episode 1, so I encourage y'all to jump over to episode 1 if y'all missed it last week. So we also learned that trauma lasts 20 to 30 years, right? 20 to 30 years. And each child within that range has a child. So that means that if you're dealing with any trauma or abuse from childhood, that means that you birthed your child into that. Okay? So by the time your child reached 20, between 20 and 30, they done had probably 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6 kids. And each kid carries 20 to 30 years worth of generational trauma if it goes unaddressed, right? Y'all, I told y'all that some things last centuries, right? I didn't know, so I wanted to see how long a century lasts. It's 100 years, y'all. 100 years a century lasts. So that will just go to show you that it's a lot of people that's dying that didn't even know that they was dealing with trauma, right? Because we barely hear people living 100 years, right? And so if we have trauma unaddressed, guess what? That goes to the grave with us. So that's why I'm here, to break everything down so we can address this matter, get healed from trauma, live outside of trauma, and start a healthy lineage for your family, right? Okay, so we finna jump into this, right? Jump right into this. And I'm so excited for tonight, right? So we went over trauma. So I want to let y'all know, it says it shows up as emotional repetition, right? Shows up as emotional repetition. You see the same pain playing out again, just wearing different clothes. Grandma stayed in an abusive relationship or marriage. Mama lost her voice in her own relationship, and you struggle to set boundaries in yours. So y'all see the pattern. So grandma stayed in an abusive relationship or marriage, and within that, her children lost their voice in their relationship because they seen grandma couldn't stand up for herself or didn't stand up for herself. Okay, so that taught you that you didn't have boundaries and you struggle with your own boundaries, right? Okay, so it also says daddy was never hugged. You don't know how to comfort your crying child. Ain't that deep? So if you never been hugged, you would not know how to comfort a crying child because you never been comforted, right? You never been comforted. A history of silence. A history of silence equals generations of emotional distance. Generation of emotional distance, right? So we are already born into trauma, right? We don't learn about emotions, right? So that's just instantly automatic when it comes down to our color people. Okay? So it says, when it says it shows up in emotional repetition, I want to explain what emotional repetition is because I breaks down everything. If I didn't hear it and I have never heard it, I want to know what it is because we have to start making it make sense when it comes to dealing with generational trauma and generational patterns. We have to know these definitions in order to make it make sense in our lives, right? So what is emotional repetition? Emotional repetition is also known as repetition compulsion. It's a psychological phenomenon where individuals unconsciously repeat emotional, painful, or traumatic experience from their past, often in an attempt to gain control or mystery over those experiences, right? It can manifest as repeating negative relationship patterns, engaging in self-destruction behaviors, and experiencing reoccurring nightmares and intensive thoughts related to past trauma, y'all. That is what emotional repetition is. That is what emotional repetition is. And I always tell y'all that majority of everything that we deal with is unconscious. It's unconscious because we did not know. This specifically says where individuals unconsciously repeat emotional, painful, or traumatic experiences from their past, right? So that's why it's time for us to get conscious of this stuff, so that we can know, so you can know your patterns and what you're passing down. It's not too late. It's not too late. People like, I'm 50, 60, I don't live back there. But you might not live back there, but guess what? Your body do. The trauma do. And the trauma will follow you because it lives in your body. And unconsciously, we don't know that trauma lives in our body. We just pass on patterns because it looks normal. Dysfunction is normal in our community. And it's hurtful. It's painful. So unless we understand, we gonna keep passing it down. So we finna understand, right? So I wanted to explain, because we hear unconscious a lot, right? What? Unconscious. We passing unconscious. We do patterns unconscious. What is unconscious? What does unconscious mean, right? So it's the adverb unconscious comes from unconscious, which is often used to mean not awake, but was originally defined as unaware. That's what unconscious means. So we are not awake, and we just not aware of what's going on, right? So whatever you do without being fully aware of it, you're doing it unconsciously. So a lot of our parenting, the hurtful parenting, we're doing it unconsciously, right? So that's what unconscious means, okay? So I want to jump into this, right? Mothered by pain. And this gonna be a touchy portion. However, we need to touch them uncomfortable spots in order to get healed. We have to touch those uncomfortable spots in order to hold accountability for our actions when it comes to our family that we created, right? And it's uncomfortable. Trust me, it's uncomfortable, but it's bringing awareness to you. It's bringing awareness that you have these patterns that you didn't know, that they finally have names to them. We can finally put names to our trauma with these definitions, right? So this episode today, we're going to touch on mothered by pain. Okay? So what happens when your mother was the source of your wounds? What happens, right? What did you do when the very person was supposed to love you broke you? Today, name the pain. Today, we're going to name the pain and talk about healing from the grief of being unmothered, right? Because we hold grief, y'all. We hold grief for the stuff that we don't get. You know, we grieve that. You know, okay, so for number one, and I also want to break this down for people. Spirit just told me to say this. Because when you think of unmothered, a lot of people think of households with drug addictive mothers, mothers that abandoned them, just not there. However, yes, Life Unmothered touches on that as well. But Life Unmothered also touches on the parents that were still in the household. Yes, yes, yes. You have parents that didn't abandon you, and they stayed in the household for you, but yet you were still felt unseen in that household, right? So for my instance, my very first episode when I did Life Unmothered, it was called, Are You Present While You Provide? Because you can provide for your kids all day long. Clothes, food, roof, you know, like we tell, I clothe you, I feed you, I do this. And you can do that. Yes, that makes you a responsible parent, but it does not make you a good parent. Okay? So I just want to make that clear. It does not make you a good parent because you clothe, food, and shelter your children. Okay? It makes you a responsible parent. And you still passing on unconscious wounds that you inherited from generations before you that you had no idea you was holding. Okay? So let's get into it. So one mother can be a narcissistic mother, right? And that's the mother that I had. Very narcissistic. Number two was the absent mother. Number three was the unavailable emotional mother, right? And two, immature mothers, right? So let's break down each type of mother. I want y'all to understand we're going to break down each type of mother. And hopefully that we can get through them all through this segment. But if we don't, then next week, then I will continue. But we're going to get down through most of these because I want you to understand what type of mother you had. What type of characteristics that you got from her that was unhealthy. And what type of mother did you become? Okay? Or father. Mother or father, right? So, it says, narcissistic. When the one who was supposed to love you couldn't, right? So, narcissistic. Everything's about her when you're dealing with a narcissistic mother. Everything is about her. She needs admiration, not connection. She competes with you or invalidates you, right? She competes with you or invalidates you. So, I want to jump. So what does it mean? Because I told y'all we breaking out everything. So what does it mean to invalidate someone, right? Validation is the acceptance of a person's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Invalidation then is just the opposite. It's when the person's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and behaviors are rejected, judged, and ignored. Okay? So that's what when you're dealing with a narcissistic mother, she invalidates you. So your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and your behaviors are rejected, judged, and ignored. That's when you're dealing with a narcissistic parent, right? So when you're dealing with an absent parent, physically or emotionally unavailable, you raised yourself, right? You raised yourself. So let me see if I got that in here. I try to keep all of this stuff in order, y'all. But anyway, we're going to keep going. So emotionally immature parent means childlike behavior, couldn't handle their emotions. You were expected to be the adult, right? So it says a narcissistic mother centers herself in every relationship dynamic, y'all. And that's called triangulation, When they center themselves in every relationship dynamic, it's called triangulation, right? Her child exists to serve her ego. Yeah. Her child only exists to serve her ego, right? So, core traits of dealing with a narcissistic mother. Need not connection, y'all. I'm trying to go so fast, my mind is just, it's all over the place, right? So, when you dealing with a narcissistic parent, you are dealing with a that need competes with her child or envies her child, right? Lack of empathy, uses guilt, control, and criticism as a tool, and sees her child as an extension of herself, not as a separate being, right? So this is when you're being raised by a narcissistic parent, okay? You learn that love is conditioned. Love is conditioned when you're dealing with a parent like this. You become hyper, a high achiever, the peacemaker, or the emotional sponge, right? Your accomplishments were never about you. They were about her image. And I'm going to get into my story in a little bit, right? Don't embarrass me becomes the rule you live by. So how many of y'all even say that to your children? You better not be out there embarrassing me. You know, that's neither here nor there. But it happens unconsciously, y'all. So how does it impact you when you were raised by a narcissistic mother? How did that impact you in your adulthood? You seek validation and performance and over-functioning. You over-apologize, over-give, and over-explain yourself, right? Deep guilt when setting boundaries. Y'all know in the Black household, it wasn't no boundaries to be set, but we can set them now. That's the thing. That's why we learn it. Difficulty trusting your own voice and emotions, right? Difficulty trusting your own voice and emotions. Now, when I told y'all that narcissistic mothers stay, it says a narcissistic mother centers herself in every relationship dynamics. Every relationship dynamic, she's going to center herself. That's called triangulation, y'all. And I want y'all to look this word up. I'm not making these words up. It means, what does triangulation in the family means? In the family system, triangulation refers to a dynamic where a third person is brought into a two-person relationship. Often to intensify or the conflict between the original two. These third parties or triangle can be a child, a friend, or another family member, right? Instead of addressing a conflict directly, one person seeks support, validation, or a way to avoid confrontation by involving a third party, right? So this was my story when my mother, when I would tell her something, it was never between just me and her. She would blurt it out through the whole entire freaking family, okay? Whatever I was dealing with, she would blurt it out between the whole freaking family. It was never just a mother and daughter conversation. So that's why I became closed off and to telling her anything, because she weaponized what I told her, right? So she would tell, you will tell her something and, she will weaponize it against you when she feels like she's losing control. So I definitely have a narcissistic mother when I was walking away from my family. And those that know my story from 4 years ago know that I have no contact with my family at all. And that was because me. I stand 10 toes down on why I walked away because of this dynamic, dysfunction. And I was just tired. Like, I couldn't take no more of that. I didn't want to live like that no more. So in order for me to heal, I had to walk away because I couldn't heal in the same place that kept me broken. And I don't know if anybody else heard that before, but it's true. You cannot heal. You can't get advice. You can't do anything in a family system that is still broken. Okay? So I had to do that. And I've been gone from my entire family for 12 years now. Oh, 11, almost 12. 11 years, almost 12 years now. And do I regret any of it? No. This is the most peaceful that I've ever lived my entire life, by being away from my family dynamics in 12 years. And I'm just being honest with you. You know, it doesn't make saying that I'm better than them. No, it doesn't. But I wanted to live differently. I wanted to do things differently. And in order for me to do that, I had to step away from a family dynamics that didn't know how to do it differently, and go somewhere to learn how to do it differently. You see what I'm saying? So I got called all type of names, which is okay. I'm not mad about that, you know, because God equipped me with the armor to wear, to bear those name calling, to bear the fact of, you know, oh, that's still your mom. Okay, I understand that that's still my mom, but at the same time, I'm her daughter as well. You know, so why couldn't I get that? Why was it always people coming to me to say, make it up with your mom, when I wasn't the one to cause the issues or the pains or anything like that? It was inflicted on me. So why couldn't nobody go to her and say, hey, why don't you make that right with your daughter? Nobody says that, you know, because they always want to say the mom is always right when she's not all the time. Your mom is not always right, especially if she don't know. How can she be right on something that she don't know? I'm just saying. But anyway, I got off a little topic, but I just wanted y'all to hear that. So what it means: narcissistic mother doesn't seek relationships rooted in emotional intimacy. They want admiration, obedience, and recognition. They're invested in how they appear, not how you feel, right? So your child got to make you look good. Like, don't be out there in the streets making me look bad. You know what I'm saying? But yet, under all of that, I tell people, you label dysfunction up. You wear them labels, but you covering dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? So you are to make them look good. They is not supposed to, your children cannot make you look bad, right? Because you care so much about your image, about what somebody gonna say about you, instead of really understanding and receiving that you did some damage to your child. You don't care about that. You just care about what others see, and it's not right. You know, I had to bury my pain under all of that hurt. And I had to dress it up because I was told, don't go out here with your hair done. You always have your clothes together. You know, which is cool. I get it. But that strong emphasis when I was hurting, like I really didn't care about that. But what can I do? Because I was living at home. I couldn't speak my voice. I had to follow the rules. I had to do that, you know. But I was suffering in silence. I was suffering in silence, and I was praying. I was praying, y'all, that someone would see my truth. But I was scared to speak because who would believe me? Who would believe me if I said that my mother abused me? Because she kept good clothes on our back. She kept a nice house. You know, drove really good cars. She kept all of those things. So who would believe me if I said that under all of that image that I was getting abused? Nobody would have believed me. So that's why I stayed silent for so many years and I didn't speak. I did not speak. And that's so many of us that's so many of us. We don't speak because we're scared of what our family gonna say. We scared of how we gonna make the family look. We are just scared. But your silence is killing you slowly, right? And I'm not telling people that you gotta come out and speak like I speak in the open, because I'm here to help somebody else unlock the chains off of their life. That's why I share my truth. And it's my truth. I don't care what nobody says. Oh, she's lying. Don't believe her. Don't listen to her. This is what happened to me. I have no reason to lie. So I'm going to tell my truth. This is my truth. This is what I experienced. This is what I had to suffer over 40 years because I didn't even realize that I was holding patterns until my 40s. Until my daughter ran away from home. Then I had to understand, like, okay, I ran away from home at 16. I know why I was running. You know what I'm saying? Because I was unseen, unheard, unloved, unvalidated, I was just there to just cater and rules and discipline. That's why I was there. And it was like I was only connected to her trauma. I did not know, and I still don't know who my mother is. I don't know her, and she don't know me, So it's just like I didn't know that I was carrying those patterns. And that's why I tell y'all the unconscious thing, we got to get conscious of the stuff that we are doing to our children. Because when seeing so many homeless children, teenagers that I've experienced since I moved here is so heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. You understand? And I want to know why, right? I know what my why was because God told me to come back and speak my why. He told me to come back and tell the world what made me want to commit suicide. Because if y'all don't know, I'm going to try to not be too explicit on here. But y'all know that I was great at 16, right? And at 17, I tried to take my own life. So I am both a survivor of both of those, right? So, and I held it in, y'all. I held it in. One thing that I can tell y'all is if you think you keeping a secret, that secret is actually keeping you. And it's driving you in the ground every single day. Because I did not know how. I just did not know how, because I became an imposter and I was mirroring everything and everybody because I had no self-identity, right? Because being raised by a narcissistic mother, they want you to become who they are. So in order for me to have some form of safety, for me to feel some form of safety, I had to transform to the person she wanted me to be, right? So I just did a skit and I said that I spent majority of my life being the daughter to her that she never was to her own mother. You know what I'm saying? So that's what broke me. And people don't understand that a person can be so strong that they will break you in two. Like her strength. And don't get me wrong. Yes, you are supposed to be strong in certain situations. But where's your soft spot? Where is that soft spot for not only yourself, but for your children? Because we always talk about, I got to raise them hard because street going to be hard on them. So I got to raise them hard. But where's the soft spot for them to come land? We need a soft spot to land, But when your children don't feel safe with you, when they don't feel safe at home, that's when they turn to the streets. right? They turn to the streets. They try to get validation for whoever they feel seen with, right? And that person can be dysfunctional as well, but it's familiar to them because they see dysfunction. And we done turned dysfunction normal so much that it's just familiar. And we gravitate towards that, right? So that's why people stay in relationships longer than they need to be, because it's familiar, especially when it's abusive. They don't stay. They try to love that person a little bit harder, thinking that they're going to change. You can't love somebody harder in order for them to change. It doesn't work that way, right? So the only thing that you're doing is trauma bonding with that person, right? So, and y'all, I'm completely off topic right now, but my spirit is taking over. Sometimes when the spirit take over, you just gotta follow suit. Come on, spirit, because somebody need this. But so, I didn't know that I was carrying a pattern, right? That my mother passed on to me unconsciously. I did not know. However, my daughter ran away when she was about 12 or 13 years old. And I couldn't understand, like, why was she running from me? Why? When I said that I clothe, I feed, and I keep a roof over her head, and I give her everything that she needs. So why is she running? Why? But she was running because she didn't feel safe with me, you know. And I became the exact same person that my mother was to me, to her, unconsciously, because that was the only structure that I had when it came to parenting. That was it. I didn't know that yelling at my child would rewire her brain. I had no clue, right? Yelling at them at a young age, you know, will put them already in survival mode. Already. I had no clue of this, right? So, I just wanted to know, right? So I knew by my daughter running, I had to figure it out. Why is she running from me? So then, one thing that I know, and I told y'all, I had to become my own example before I can even talk to anybody, right? I had to do these steps first. So that's why I'm bringing it forth to tell y'all that this works. It works. I had to sit my daughter down and explain to her what I went through in my childhood, right? We don't think about that because our children weren't there to deal with it. Our children wasn't there. So why would I break down the traumatic experience that I had in childhood to a child that wasn't even thought of, right? However, unconsciously, your child is going through everything that you experienced in childhood. Everything. And so in order for me to understand her, I had to break down what it was that I was trying to suppress. And I was scared to talk. I was scared to tell anybody. I told myself that I was going to the grave with me being great, right? I didn't want nobody to know. I went to church to pray to God that he would allow me to just keep that secret. But in actuality, it was coming out. It was coming out. Nobody knew that I was, I would say a semi-alcoholic. Nobody knew that. You know what I'm saying? I became a workaholic, a semi-alcoholic, you know, alcoholic person. And I was a functioning, dysfunctional person in a routine, doing everything every day, just doing everything every day. But guess what? When they see my daughter out and she had them new shoes, new clothes, hair done, they told me I was a good mama. And I was like, yay. But yet my daughter was suffering because of the pains and the wounds that I passed to her that I didn't even know had names, right? So I had to sit down to explain to her what I went through, right? In order to make it make sense. Because one, we gonna be too strict on our child, or two, we not gonna give them structure at all. We just gonna let them go. right? Because of our traumatic experience. So our traumatic experience is going to allow us to hold our children tight. You can't go nowhere. You can't breathe. I don't want you over there. Or, you know what? I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have that. Just go. No structure at all. They just wild, right? So that's one or two things that's going to happen. It's one or the other. Ain't nothing in between, right? So by me sitting down and explaining to my daughter, she finally understood why I held her so tight. Like, I held her tight. Like, I don't want nobody to hurt my baby. No, she can't stay the night at your house. No, she can't go skating. I need her home at 7 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? I was so strict that she could not stand me. But she didn't know my story, right? So that right there creates a burden for our children. They don't like you. They do not like you when you don't explain your story, right? Because they don't know why you're so strict. They don't know why I can't do this. They don't know, you know what I'm saying? They just don't know. So I encourage people, sit down with your children. And another thing, you have to give permission to your child to speak their truth, regardless of how it's going to hurt, how it's going to make you feel. It's going to hurt your feelings. It's going to break your heart. Trust me, I had to go through it all of it. But I couldn't get defensive, because one thing about it is when they tell you that you did something to make them feel a certain type of way, you can't say you didn't. You cannot say that you didn't. You just got to sit in that. You got to sit in that, right? And it's going to hurt, because you're going to be like, first thing, you're going to be on defense. I ain't do that. Girl, whatever. No, but you did. Why? Because they telling you. Right? They telling you. It's a lot of kids that's sitting with their parents and they're pretending. They only telling you what you want to hear. That's it. You don't know that child. You know, they don't know you. All you doing is just playing the role as the mother. You know that you got to work. You know that you got to take care of your kids. You know that you try to keep them out of trouble, out the system, you know, whatever. You in just a full routine. But however, it's not healthy mothering, because you don't have a relationship with your child. You don't, you know, and you grow up, you know, like me. I grew up. Of course, I had the image to uphold. I'm writing Facebook posts, oh, this happy Mother's Day to the best mother in the world. But deep down inside, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way. That was for the world. That was a facade. You know what I'm saying? Because I had that image to uphold over my pain. And it wasn't right, because I was drowning in that every single day. I was drowning in that every single day, right? So, another example of a narcissistic mother. She brags about you to others, but ignore your pain privately, y'all. Y'all don't know how many people that I heard come up to me to say, your mom said you're doing really good. You know, congratulations on this, that, and the third, right? Ask me how many times I heard her say that. She never told me that. So I didn't know how she was feeling, right? She never showed up to nothing, no awards, no games, no track, no nothing. She didn't do that, you know? So that like, it crushed me, because you want your mom to be your number one supporter, right? Your number one supporter is supposed to be your mama. But however, you got to understand, when your child achieves something, don't make that about you. Don't make that about you, because that child will spend the rest of their lives trying to make you proud. Do you understand how draining that is? It's draining, y'all. It's draining. So I had to learn how to switch my language up when it came to my daughter, right? So when she did something, because sometimes we only get love when we doing something good. A's, we get all A. Oh, you did good. You know what I'm saying? But outside of that, outside of your accomplishments, outside of the good things that you do, you don't get nothing. Nothing. You're not seen, you're not heard until you do something. So you spend the rest of your life trying to do something to please your mama just so you can get some form of validation. No, that is draining. It's draining, y'all. I spent all of my life doing that until I decided that when I was 30, I had to be 32. When I decided that enough was enough. Enough is enough. If you can't see my worth, if you can't see me for who I am and who I'm trying to be, then you don't get to see me at all. And that's just what it is, right? So it says being raised by a narcissistic mother, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the dynamics that I grew up in, being raised by a narcissistic mother. That's the dynamics that I'm talking about tonight, right? She needed to be the good mom in public, even if she was neglectful in private. She had to be the good mom, right? So, like I told y'all, we dress dysfunction up. You know, long as your kids got nice clothes, nice shoes, nice everything. But I can guarantee you that if you set that child down and you allow them to speak their truth, like I'm talking about allow them, like you got to sit in front of your child to say, hey, I give you permission to speak your truth without me feeling hurt, you know, shameful, bitter, angry. Speak your truth. So that's why a lot of times people fail when they take their children to counseling, right? Because you don't allow your child to speak their truth. For number one, the child is scared because you already done prepped your child before they even went to counseling. You better not tell this counselor X, Y, and Z, right? So the child gets up in there and they shut down. They're not going to say nothing because they scared that the counselor going to tell you what they said and they going to get punished when they get back home. Trust me. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from experience. So if my mom would have sat down with me, you know, and said, hey, Mona, go in here and just let it all out, you know, no consequences, no anything. No, I got prepped before. How you going to take me to counseling and prep me on what to say? That don't even make sense, right? So that's why I'm telling you, you have to give your children permission to speak their truth. It's going to hurt. I promise you. I promise you. Just because of the unconscious patterns that was passed down that you didn't know that you was doing. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. However, you felt like a trophy, not a daughter or a son. You felt like a trophy and not a daughter or a son. You know, so they had to show you off, especially if you achieved good things. You know what I'm saying? Went to, you know, played football, went, you know, to a specific college. I did, you know how they be at the graduation. I did that. I did that. One thing I did when I went to my daughter's high school graduation, I yelled, she did that. She did that, because she did all the work. I was only there to guide her through. I didn't do that. She did it. You know what I'm saying? So even just the tweaking of our language to our children will make a huge difference. And I'm going to see one episode. I'm going to see if my daughter want to come on and talk. We did 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we did an episode together, right? And she was explaining to people that if it wasn't for my mom switching her behavior, learning my traumas, learning my patterns, that she would have been a teen mom, that she wouldn't have got accepted into college. just by me changing the way that I interacted with my child. Just changing that. Just simple, right? Just simple. But you got to understand, if you pass trauma along unconsciously to your child, and you on this healing journey, like right here, all of this right here, y'all, is healing. It's healing because we learning the definitions and what they mean and how we can piece them together in our lives to start to make our decisions, what we struggle with. All of that makes sense because we have to put a name to it. We have to name it. What is it? What is it? I didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't understand that trauma runs this deep, y'all. I had no clue that trauma runs this deep until I really started doing my research. You know, one thing about it is I would not allow the doctor to slap just a label on me, right? So I was manic depressed, just crying out of nowhere, just in bed for days, not eating, not nothing. And I didn't know, right? I'm fighting to get up and go to work, get up and get in this routine. I'm fighting. It was a fight of my life, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So when that doctor told me, you manic depressed, and I looked at her, what does that mean? Why am I manic depressed? So that right there triggered my studying for me, because you just not finna tell me that I'm manic depressed and give me all these pills to take. That ain't finna happen. Not for me. It didn't happen for me. So that led me down the rabbit hole to really dig deep into my studying. And when I came across this word narcissistic, baby, that changed the game for my life. Because now I understood who I was raised by and what impact that had on me and why I struggled so long to understand, right? So it's very important, y'all, that y'all stay tuned for every episode of Life Unmothered, because we gonna break down everything. If I come even across a word that I ain't never heard of, guess what? We breaking that down too. We breaking it all the way down, right? So a lot of this stuff I didn't even get through because Spirit took over. Y'all see my little hand. Thank you, Spirit, because somebody at the end of the day needed to hear that, you know, needed to hear how changing and how accepting, because at first I had to accept who I was raised by, and I had to accept that she would never be the mother that I always wanted. You know, I had to accept that. And that was just something hard for me to accept. But one thing that we have to do is that we have to accept and acknowledge of what we come from, where we came from, and who we came from. And we cannot blame. We can't blame our parents, because at the end of the day, they were children at once too, y'all. So we have to give them grace. However, that does not mean that we have to forget about what they did. You know, we don't have to. We don't have to forget what they did. That's not why, just because we give them grace, it does not mean that we're wiping away the trauma that they're passed to us. But it gives us a little bit more understanding that they got it from their mother gave it to them, they gave it to us, we gave it to ours, and we stopping it right here. You know what I'm saying? We have to put a disruption to this traumatic pattern in order for the rest of our generation to be healed, healthy, and whole. They deserve that. We suffered enough. We've been living in survival for decades and centuries, y'all. The next generation deserve that, and they deserve your work. So you have to put in the work. You know, nobody is going to work this but you. And it's going to be hard. I'm telling y'all now, trauma healing is not pretty. It's not pretty, y'all. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up if one day that you having a bad day. Don't beat yourself up. That's just telling you that I deserve this day to rest. I deserve this day to rest, and then get up the next day and then start, all over again. But don't beat yourself up because you having a bad day. Let me tell y'all something. My healing done started over about 20 times. I'm not going to sit up here and sugarcoat anything. I'm not finna sit up here and act like I'm perfect. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? However, I did go as far as to do the work for myself, for my child, and I'm thankful that I did the work for me and her, because now that I have a grandson and she has her son, I pray that he never gets to touch these patterns that we leaving over here, right? So we learning to do it different for him, okay? So that he can continue to do it different from the seeds that come from him. So when is it gonna start? We in this generation right now. We ain't 50 years ago, and damn sure ain't 50 years in the future just yet. But we here. You know what I'm saying? And our lineage is gonna keep rolling. It's gonna keep going, y'all. It's gonna keep going. When we gone, it's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep going. But with you doing the work is how they're going to keep going, right? So, and I want to leave y'all with one thing too before I get off here. ACE test, Advanced Childhood Experience Test, right? I want y'all to go to this site to take your test to see your what does it say? It's a free site that you can take, and it just shows you your past experience that may have unknowingly influenced your presence, right? So when you take this test and you see how high your test score, y'all, mine was a 7 out of 10. Mine was a 7 out of 10, right? So, and that's pretty high. That's pretty high. It says the count of number yeses for each point. The higher the score, the greater the trauma loads, right? And how it affects your adulthood, right? So with the scoring, it's kind of like giving you a diagnosis just to let you know that, dang, I dealt with a lot of trauma, that I really have to work this out. I really have to work this out. So I'm going to give y'all the site before I leave, right? So I want y'all to really go on this site and take that test. Just see where you at when it comes to early childhood trauma, adverse childhood experience. That's what it's called. It's the ACE test, right? So you're going to go to the happiness psychologics.com, right? So I'm going to spell it out. It's THEANNESSPHYLOGIST.com, right? Go take your test. Go take your test just to see where you at, just to see, how much amount of trauma that you're holding, how much that you have to work on yourself. And I'm gonna tell y'all one more thing, and come through, Spirit, because Spirit say come through on what I'm about to leave y'all with, right? Spirit, come on through. Spirit say, the Bible says that my people perish for the lack of knowledge, right? Y'all see all this is research. All this was done before I even put it up, right? This is researched already, right? So my people perish for the lack of knowledge. We get knowledge right here. Every week that y'all come on here, y'all gonna get some form of knowledge to do it differently. And I'm gonna say this because Spirit said to say it. If you learn how to do it different and you don't change, you're choosing not to change. And then people can blame you for the hurt that you passed on. Okay? You will choose not to change if you get information and you say, you know what? I'm used to this. It's familiar to me. I'm going to keep going, But just understand that God sees all. He knows all. And if you do not put the work in it after you know that these definitions is here and we put a name to your trauma and you're not changing, you're choosing not to change then. And then your children can be upset at you because you chose not to change after hearing this. So with that being said, y'all, thank you for the ones that popped in to watch me. The ones that actually watched the replay. If y'all put it in the comments, replay if y'all watched it. Y'all seen something on this episode tonight that you really enjoy and you think somebody else can gain some knowledge from, hit the share button. I really appreciate that. And next week, y'all, I have really been in my creator's bag, okay? Because the education just don't stop with this show, Life Unmothered. It doesn't. So I'm in my creator bag. Next week, I got a huge announcement that I'm excited. I'm real excited, y'all. And I hope that y'all support me on this journey. So with that being said, y'all have a great evening. Peace, blessings, and happy healing. And until next week, Thursday, y'all do your own research. Bye, y'all.